This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us.
On today's show, it sits front and centre, it slaps you around the face, and it says, "You're mine, bitch, come here."
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 22, Into the World, part 3. Kelly, I'm excited to finally wrap up this really complex album. It's kind of interesting because I feel like Dojun has continually said in a few different lives and interviews that he thinks this album is such easy listening for fans, and I think he's saying that more from the perspective of the melodies and
Yeah.
the flow of the songs, but I have to say, as we keep diving into the meaning behind the lyrics, especially of these songs, and even some of the production of the songs, it's a far more complex album than I thought on the initial listen. So
Yeah.
excited to wrap that up today. All right, let's jump in first to our hot takes. So I have to say, listeners, we've been sharing kind of ongoing a lot of the fun things that have come out on the tour in the fan Q&A sessions. And the US leg that kicked off in Minneapolis on July 10th was no different. And I have to say, Kelly, I feel like the US leg Q&As are like pure comedy. I don't know what is going on with the Rose, but like somehow every one of these Q&As has some like hilarious soundbite that's like stand-up comedy.
I think it's all the junk food they're being given in the actual green room, to be honest. It's all the additives. This is all I'm saying. They're all on a sugar
It's
rush.
too many sour jellies. Maybe they
Oh
need to
God,
update
yeah.
their rider.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the riders are just absolute crap. There's no health involved with it at all. It's just sugar and additives.
They might need a salad. Maybe Hajuni should ask for Subway because isn't that what he said he wanted? His guilty
I think
pleasure
it might be a
Subway.
good idea, yeah.
Hajuni, you should ask for Subway, and they need to lay off these sour jellies because I had the pleasure of being at Minneapolis, but there were so many funny things that came out. I felt like we had to highlight this. So first, I'll say that I had this really fun interaction with the Rose during the sound check. So I yelled out a recommendation to play Woo-sung's solo song Modern Life from his 2022 Moth album, which is my all-time favorite. And you know, Kelly, we always say here in the podcast, like we always talk about the key, and we always kind of go into those sort of things. And then I had noticed in these sound checks that the guys never know the key of their old songs. They barely know any of the chords. So as the person I am, I come prepared. I had looked all of this information up and I had it ready to go on my phone. I thought I was going to yell to Jeff what the chords were that he would play on his guitar. I wasn't expecting Jeff to walk over to me and grab my phone and play Modern Life off of my phone. It was hysterical. I love that I could watch other people's video and I could hear myself say, "Shit, I can't record now."
I love that. I love that that was your default panic.
It was
Not
my
that-
default panic.
Not what was your lock screen or anything like that.
Well, and then I could hear in other people's video that Sammy said to him, "Go look in her photos and her text messages." What a little shit.
Come on, we know
And
the man's a little fucker.
Taekyung, if you're listening, you were a gentleman and you did not go through my photos.
Obviously,
and
he's
my
been brought up correctly.
He's been brought up correctly. Sammy, on the other hand, if you're listening, I got my eye on you.
He needs a slap.
What? He does. Like, what? But that was so fun. And then some other funny moments. So into the Q&A, there was a girl and her mom sitting next to me, and she had a sign. And her sign said, "Woo-sung, ask AJ to go to prom with me." And he comes out and he sits down and he sees the sign like right away. And at first it's hysterical because like he didn't piece together who AJ was. like like how many other AJs are in your life, Sammy, that you're not like automatically hearing that name and realizing they mean your brother? Like he was like, AJ
Well, I mean,
who?
I know an AJ as well. It's not an uncommon name.
But but do we really think he thinks that there's this random AJ she wants to go to prom with at a
Probably.
Rose
You never
concert?
know.
Like once he realized, oh, you mean my brother AJ?
Yeah, come on. I mean,
Remember?
I know for a fact that you've got a brother the same as me. Did you always refer to your brother by his name? Because I know damn well I used to
Oh
frequently
yeah.
refer to my brother as Dickhead.
Oh. I always call my brother by his name. Not sure what Sammy calls his brother, but you know, maybe it's an endearing term
Enduring
that
term.
he
I love
nickname
my
he
brother
has.
to bits.
I don't know. So then dad mode comes in,
No dad
Sammy.
mode.
Yeah, dad mode kicks in and he's like, "Well, how old are you?" And she's like 17. And he's like, "Well, AJ's 18 now. Isn't that illegal?" And I'm thinking, Sammy, what do you think they're gonna do at prom? Like,
Well,
it's just going to prom.
well, I mean,
Like,
to be perfectly honest, we've all seen the movies. We know what's meant to happen at prom.
I'm like, it's just going to prom, Sammy. Like, we're not trying to do anything else here. I think a 17-year-old and 18-year-old can go to prom. So then, of course, Sammy puts all of AJ's business out on Front Street.
Oh, of
Like, I'm
course.
sure AJ wants the world to know that he has a girlfriend and that he just graduated high school and he's DJing now. And I'm like, can we stop giving out your brother's personal business? Can we nip it in the bud? Just say no. Like,
Shut up, Sam. Shut
you
up.
know, yeah, I'm like, the yapper's coming out here. Like, hold up. Like, whoop,
Zip it.
zip it.
Zip it. Zip it.
Yeah. So that was funny. So her heart, she was like really crestfallen. But then had to have been the most hilarious bit. I shout out to the Black Rose that asked this question. She actually sat next to me. So if she's listening to this podcast, hello. See me. I couldn't believe she sat next to me during the show and we were talking about this, but she asked, kiss, marry, kill.
I mean, it's a legitimate question, and they've been asked this in Europe as well.
Oh my God! To which this is just oh God.
Is this when death is this when death as a post Sam kicks in, or is this
Oh my
just him
God.
being him?
I love that in these like hypothetical situations, he couldn't fathom killing any of them, but he could fathom doing other things.
Well,
Like,
I mean, that's kind of how my mind would work as well.
it just was. I was just like,
Definitely
this is
wasn't
make believe.
a fighter.
This isn't real. This isn't happening. Like you can say which one you would knock off. Like it doesn't have to be that suddenly you gotta change it to something else. The man is a pushover. He did not want to answer this question. And I think he was gonna get away with it. But shout out to the Black Rose because she told him, don't be a Sally and answer, which I said to her when I was sitting next to her, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know that term. Like, what does that mean? But she said, well, I felt like it wasn't appropriate in mixed company to yell, don't be a pussy.
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, it would have been slightly stronger in the UK.
Oh my God. So once he heard that, then he was like, okay. And his answer
it's
was,
on like Donkey Kong, is it?
oh yeah. His answer was marry Leo, kiss Jeff, and fuck Hajun. To which Hajun was like, I would rather die. And he goes,
No,
that's not an option. First, that's not an option. That wasn't an option.
He'd not be dropping soap, would he?
No. But I'm just like, where did that come from, Sam? That wasn't one of the choices. You didn't have to go there. Like, it wasn't. No. You didn't need to go there.
But he did.
So, listeners, I have that reel out on our Instagram page. It is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, go check out K Rock Cast. We have seen in multiple now fan Q&As, fans asking about the lack of Korean lyrics. I think they've been answering it in similar ways every time they've been kind of broaching it. But so I wonder if they're starting to kind of think about it themselves, and maybe we'll see anything coming out of them in future music in Korean. But one of the things that they said a little differently this time, which I found this interesting, that Sammy shared, he feels like writing in English is more natural for him than Korean. He feels expressing his thoughts at times is harder in Korean. And I think why I find that interesting is I perceive that he's living more in Korea than in the United States in his life right now. And so he's likely speaking more Korean than he
Mm.
is English on a day-to-day basis. And so I just find that interesting that he says writing music is more natural, writing in English to him.
I think I think when you write lyrics, it comes from an emotional standpoint. And generally speaking, the most emotional part of your life is when you're a teenager. That is the time that tends to stick with you when you revert to an
Mm,
emotional state. His primary language at that point would have been English. So I can understand that.
that's an interesting
And
perspective, Kelly. I hadn't thought
and
about
and
it from that
and
way.
also English is it's more of a poetic language. I don't know
Mm,
whether that's I don't know whether that's a forced poetical language because of obviously, us Brits going out to every other country on the planet and going, "Do you have a flag? No, you don't. Hello, here's a British flag. We own you." I don't know whether it's because of that, but yeah, it seems to be more of a poetical language than a lot of languages. So it could also be that as well.
that's an interesting perspective too, basis more in the romance languages.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and then I think they've reiterated this, I think, in the past when they've answered this question of fans, but because most of their listeners speak English, to them, the lyrics of their songs are a very important part of their music to them because that's how they're conveying the message through their music. And so, with most of their fans speaking English, they want a majority of their fans to most easily understand their message.
If you look at when NASA send anything out into deep space and they're trying to send the voices of Earth, they will send every single language out into space. But the main language that they always send as the universal language is music. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing, but English, it's not the most spoken language in the world, but it's the most recognized language in the world.
Mm, yeah. And then lastly, I thought this was interesting. Dojun shared that they have been writing in English first. And so it feels awkward to them to translate their thoughts and feelings into Koreans. And then I have to say, this was hysterical. The car diffuser joke.
Diffuser gate.
And the guys have been teasing Taegyum about this car diffuser and his car in general for multiple shows now, all throughout the US tour. It keeps actually coming up after the Minneapolis Q&A. It's come up multiple times. They were teasing him in photosynthesis episodes about it. This must be the joke they rag on this man about constantly.
Can you
Like,
blame them?
at what point is it gonna be like, okay, guys, like this joke is now worn out. Like,
No, this is when he goes out and buys a candle for 600 quid. Then the joke will change. He's got to top himself for this one.
I know, and I said it. I think I said it in some of our content out. I was teasing Taegyum that he's obviously very bougie.
Oh, yeah,
He's
obviously.
very bougie.
Obviously. There is nothing wrong with having expensive taste, darling.
Love that Hajun. Okay, so Hajun was the one that brought this up in the Minneapolis Q&A. Hajuni. I love that man so much. And then Sammy picked it up. Sammy picked it
And
up,
he
the yapper that
ran with
he
it.
is. He ran with it. So it started off with this weird question from a Black Rose asking for money to buy merchandise.
Which is the weirdest question ever.
It was so strange. It was very awkward to where Sammy's like, "I don't have $50, but Jeff does because he's rich." And then it went from there. Oh my god. Talking about this diffuser that he bought for his car and how much the diffuser cost to where Taekyum got so embarrassed that he, like, made it the hole for himself even deeper by saying he bought it secondhand and it was only $400 secondhand, which is like the audience was like, "What?" To where Dojun called him out and said, "But yeah, you bought 2 of them."
I just,
Then
yeah, I can't, yeah, my brain just doesn't, yeah, yeah.
Then I love that Dojun is, like, trying to pull this joke back where he's like, "Okay, like, we're not trying to make fun of him," to where Sammy jumps in and goes, "But it was so funny." And then Dojun keeps coming in going, "Okay, like, let's kinda stop." Like, he was trying to, like, stop the joke. Sammy just kept going, and then he made the rare actual joke of saying that every time he breathes in, it's like $2, another $2, another $2. Which I have to
Look,
say, that joke
look,
was
we've
pretty
we've
damn
had this
funny.
conversation before. He can be funny. I know I just have a whacked sense of humour and I find him funny, but he can actually
Yeah,
be funny sometimes.
yeah, he's occasionally, everybody gets one in every now and again,
Yeah.
but then always what the man does is he is the king of recycled jokes. So now he just keeps saying that over and over and over
Isn't that the case? I mean,
again.
literally, he's got his little arsenal of dad gags, hasn't he, that just have to come out of the closet every
I
now and
know,
again.
I know. And then I'll end with a perfect one-liner from Hajun because our man always comes with them. A fan raised her hand and said, "I have a weird question." To which Sammy goes, "No, there's no weird questions," which was so kind and so sweet. And then Hajun goes, "Yeah, there is. That one over there," meaning the girl that said kiss, marry, kill that turned
Yeah.
into kiss, marry, fuck. He goes, "That one over there was a weird question."
That's only because he was at the receiving end.
My god, that was so funny. That was a great Q&A. If you guys haven't watched it, you definitely have to watch it on YouTube. All right, Kelly, move us into our next part of our hot takes.
Finally, at last, we get to see FT Island's recording of Thunderstorm. The single was released a couple of weeks back and it's amazing. I absolutely love this. If you haven't listened to it, go and listen to it. It is classic power rock with a really lovely little modern twist to it. Sammy actually helped on this. He went in as a vocal director of the song, and Hyungae actually posted a little snippet of him working with the team in the studio, directing. Right, I've got to say something here, and I really hate to say this, but by God, he is good. He hit every single note, every single phrasing, every single paraphrasing. Everything was perfectly done. He picked up on it with such clarity and such ease and explained it so well that that song rings with perfection when it comes to vocals. Now, for me to
Mm.
say that, I don't like giving him a compliment, and that's a big compliment. I would actually love to go in the studio with him and have him direct me because I will freely admit to being a lazy fucker when I sing. I
Yeah,
I have a I have a very decent range, and I'm like, I'm in my comfort zone of 2.5 octaves here, and I'm not moving. What do you mean you want me to go up? But yeah, I was so impressed.
great to see Usong and any of the other members just thriving behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It's fantastic.
yeah.
And do you know what? He has such a natural ability to do it that it is something
Yes.
that he will be able to do long into the future. And much credit to him to have that ability. It's been announced as well this morning that the 10th studio album from FTS Island will be dropping on September the 17th, and it's called Instinct.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. So, yeah, look out for that. I'm sure we'll be highlighting FT Island more in future episodes and on our Instagram page. There was an interview, iHeartRadio Z100 interview with the Rose. And this was a pleasure because we really have not, Kelly, you and I've talked about this. They have not been promoting the World album much.
Not at all.
Um,
Not at
yeah,
all.
a few interviews, a few print interviews and very few video type content or interviews. So it was really a pleasure to see the members and hear them talking more
Mm.
about the World album in this interview and to give them again a platform and visibility through iHeartRadio
Yeah.
and Z100, major radio station there in New York. There were only 3 of the members, Dojun, Hajun, and Taegyum were there. Sung was resting. So if fans weren't aware, he started to get sick in Chicago on the US
Yeah.
leg, which was 2 shows prior to New York. So he was still recovering his voice. I was at the New York Madison Square Garden show. I think his voice sounded great. He looked great. He sounded good, but I guess he just wanted to give it as much of a rest. But I will say, and this is no offense to Woo-sung. Obviously, I enjoy hearing his thoughts and perspectives, but it was nice to hear the other 3 members more.
Yeah.
You
No, I
know,
completely get you.
yeah, yeah, and so, again, Taegyum and Hajun, uh, just recognizing their English proficiency because
Mhm.
the interview was conducted fully in English and they were able to speak and share their thoughts and express their thoughts very well in English to the interviewer. And so it was great. It was nice to see them promoting. She asked about any special moments with working on the album, and Dojun talked about that writing session in Busan. And again, just reinforcing things you and I have said on the podcast that it was like going home for them.
Yeah.
He did share it was Taegyum's idea to do that writing session in Busan based on the focus they knew they wanted to have with the album. And then I have to laugh at this, Kelly. So they kind of threw Sammy a little bit under the bus with admitting that he brought his entire gaming console and computer with them so he could continue playing his computer games. And it sounded like he did that a lot while they were
Yeah.
there and then kind of, heard them and they were writing the melodies. And then he's like, okay, give me like 30 minutes. I'm going to work on the lyrics. And I have to say that I was like, remember when I was like, what's up with him not playing at all on this album? And you called him an idle sod. Like, so now I think we know the man was playing computer games.
Right. Why do I have to keep jumping to his defense?
Even I
Right.
throw you the perfect softballs to hit it out of the park with roasting him.
I know. I know. Right. I am going to defend him on this one, though. It was a bit fucking extreme taking a complete computer console with him so he could sit playing games. But if they had decided that Sam was primarily working on lyrics and the harmony lines for lyrics, because that's what he would have done. The harmonies that the guys would have been working on would have been piano harmonies or guitar harmonies, and then he would have worked on the vocal harmonies and the lyrics. A lot of the time, when you are sat in a room with a group of musicians and they're playing away, and you're literally trying to sort of just listen to what it is, you have to take yourself away and concentrate on something else while you're doing it because the true pearls jump out at you. So when it's a really, really good hook, you'll look away and go, oh, that one. Let's work on that one because it piques your interest. Whereas if you just sort of sat there waiting for it to wash over you, yeah, I kind of get it. It's a bit of a dick move. Bit of a dick move. But I must admit, I have been known to take a book into rehearsals when we've been doing writing sessions and we sat reading and then just go, it's like, that one works. So he's not on his own with that. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry to admit it, but it is true.
I just like to tease him. I'm sure he was very, very involved.
No, he wasn't.
Um, but Let me tell you, this man and his video games, they kinda wrapped up with talking about the filming process of their documentary. They haven't been promoting that too much either, so it was
No.
nice. I was happy to see that the interviewer asked him about that, and they were able to talk a little bit about that film. They talked about the tour and that they've really enjoyed the way that they designed the show this time is more intimate and cozy and giving them this opportunity to interact more directly with the fans throughout the
Yeah.
show, and so yeah, they also commented on something you and I've been talking about is they're noticing more diversity in their audience,
Which is
meaning age
fantastic.
diversity, gender
Yeah.
diversity. They comment about men at their shows almost at every show that I've
Yeah.
been to. I've noticed seeing more male fans coming and not people being dragged by their
Yeah.
girlfriend or wife or sister. Like they're actually, I talked to shout out to Ray. Not sure if Ray's listening, but I talked to him at the Maryland show. And, I assumed he was there with his sister because his sister made him go. And then he promptly told me that no, he was a legit fan, a real fan, and has been for several years. And
Yes.
so I think it's been great just to see more diversity among their listener base. And so it was
Yeah.
interesting that he commented, Dojun commented about that. So good interview overall. We will link this interview in the episode notes. So go check it out if you haven't yet. Kelly, why don't you move us in with wrapping up the hot takes with our artist recommendation this week?
Are you ready for this?
Ooh, you're excited for this one.
I am. It's time because Duran Grey is happening. So, Duran Grey were the band that got me into East Asian music. They are wonderful and avant garde and completely over the top. But we'll go through that as I give you a brief description of them. So, Duran Grey formed in 1994, and it's a very unusual blend of alt metal, and it was part of the Visual Kai scene. So, if you're not aware, Visual Kai is a Japanese thing that came about in the 1980s. I suppose it's a little bit like the new romantic thing in the 1980s that happened in the UK. It was a very similar explosion. And it was so heavily based on how people looked, their costumes, their makeup, the stage set. It wasn't about genre at all. So, I mean, it would literally cover the whole gamut of like pop to goth to punk to rock. Everything was in this thing of Visual Kai, which is why you get like things like Harajuku girls and all of those type of things. This is where it all stems from. And when they initially started in 1994, they were very much in this guise. And I mean, full on costumes, makeup, all the works. And they were really well received. The band is comprised of three guitarists and vocalists. I mean, there is a main vocalist, which is Kyo, but he plays guitar, and then like there's two other guys that'll occasionally join in, who are Keiro and Dai. And then we have the bass player, which is Toshia, and then we have the drummer, which is Shinya. These guys are tip top musicians. You cannot believe how good they are. Every single one of them, they're just masters at what they do. And they are so well recognized in Japan and, as we'll get onto it, around the rest of the world for what they do and what they're capable of. So the first EP was an independent release, and that was in 1998. And Misa entered the top 10 of the Oricon music charts. And the band literally just took off from there. They were embraced immediately. Everybody wanted part of them. They were loved in Japan, and then something happened. Somebody heard them, and they went global. Now, a lot of people may not know about them, but if you're into certain scenes, you'll know about Daring Grey. So they ended up performing at some of the most legendary rock festivals that you can imagine. So they've done Rock and Ring, they've done Taste of Chaos, they did the Korn Family Values Tour, Loudon Festival, Wacken, they've played Download and Sonosphere. They've supported the Deftones, Linkin Park, Korn. I mean, we're talking all the major
Wow.
hitters in that scene. They've charted in several countries outside of Japan as well, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
not just like on one release. I mean, Finland, they were in the top 10 on several occasions in Finland because just what they did was just so different, and people gravitated towards what it was they were working on. I personally fell in love with them in 2009. They actually came to the venue I was working at, and
Mm.
I used to get, I could literally just go and see any band after work, just put myself on the guest list, and I decided I kind of wanted to see these guys beforehand. I walked away absolutely obsessing over them. I think I literally dived into their entire back catalogue in a week, learned every single word I possibly could, got the bass out. I was learning all the bass lines and everything. Oh my God,
I
they were
love it.
just so good. I fell so passionately in love with them on the spot. And it just started this cycle of me sort of looking more into East Asian music. So in 2009, the time that I actually sort of found them was when they were doing the Krang Relentless tour. So if you don't know, Krang is a huge rock and metal magazine in the UK, and they promote a lot of artists, and they really do tend to look quite outside the borders for artists as well. And they've been very, very good at bringing in artists from the Middle East and all over the place over the past few years, and sort of pushing and developing those as well. And at the time, though, it was Daring Grey. So they were touring with Bring Me the Horizon, which a few of you may have heard of, Mindless Selfless Indulgence, Black Tide, and In Case of Fire. So their sound flops between pop, and this is where it gets fun, extreme metal, then we do
Ooh.
alternative and experimental, avant garde, and groove metal. There is just
Oh,
something
wow.
about what they do that is just really impressive. Now, Kaio has the most unusual voice and range. He's very much, I don't know how many of you know of a guy called Mike Patton or a band called Faith No More. Um, Faith No More were huge in the late sort of like 1990s, in the early
Yeah, I remember them.
2000s. Yeah, exactly. And so Kaio has this ability to be able to sing like he's a member of the Rat Pack. He literally
Mm.
sounds like he should be with Frank Sinatra and the guys. He can do that crooner thing. And then in the next minute, he turns so much power into his vocals and they become drenched with it. And then 3 seconds later, he's screaming like a banshee. However, and we've discussed this quite a bit on here, he has suffered greatly for this. He's been hospitalized on several occasions with
Mm.
ruptured vocal cords.
Oh,
Not just
wow.
nodes, ruptured vocal cords. And yes,
Wow.
that is as nasty as it sounds. Eventually, he ended up hospitalized, and I think this was when they were on one of the European tours. He ended up with edema of the larynx. Now,
Mm.
if you don't want a good night's sleep, folks, I'll let you look that up on Google. It's not
Oh, my.
nice. It's as bad as
Oh.
it sounds. So between 1999 with Gauze, which, by the way, if you want to start listening to them, that's the one to listen to because it has some of the most gorgeous, fattest pop hooks you will ever hear in your life. It is a
Mm.
fantastic album. They've released 11 albums since, and the last album came out in 2022, which is Phalaris. Now, we are waiting for something new to come out, but what you've got to bear in mind of, even though Kaio has all these issues with his voice, he can't sit still for a second. So he was the founding member of the equally stunning Sukaiko. They're a brilliant band. They have slight industrial twinges, but there's a softer listening to it, and you get to hear his voice a lot more in the mix than you do with Daring Grey. And then he also co-founded the supergroup of Japan, which is Petite Breton.
Wow.
Why do one band when you can do three major bands that come out of Japan? One of my favourite quotes, and I will just leave this here because we've been discussing things like this just recently, and I came across this quote and I thought I've got to say this one. So this is from Dai, who's one of the guitarists. They saw us as idols. We aren't idols. We're a band. We play music and want to be known for it. So we decided to change our style slowly.
Mm, I like that. I do think that kind of goes into themes that we've been talking about, but also kind of things we see within the
Mm.
Rose
Yeah.
for
I mean,
sure.
Visual Kai is definitely something that was picked up by Korea and where we get K pop idols. That's where it's come from. They picked up
Mm,
on the Visual Kai and ran with it because they didn't used to do it before. And it was something that they sort of picked up in probably late 1990s, moving into the 2000s. They were a bit later to come into it. But that's where it all stems from.
mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you, Kelly. So definitely check out Darren Gray, and we'll have we already, I'm sure, have songs from them on our K Rock Cast Loves playlist on Spotify. So be
Oh,
sure to
yes, there
check
is.
that out. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's jump into our deep dive, Kelly, as we wrap up the World album. We're going to talk about track 6 and track 7. So let's jump into that. So let's get into track 6. This is slowly. Let's start with the composition and so forth. Composed and arranged by the Rose. Vocals Kim Woo Sung, Park Do Joon. Drums Lee Ha Jun. Bass Lee Tae Gyum. Electric guitar both Leo and Jeff. Keyboard Leo. Sound design Leo. Drum and bass recorded by E Chang Sun at Prelude Studio. And then drum and bass edited, guitar recorded, edited, vocal recorded, edited, and mixed. Again, all by Leo at Windfall. And again, using Mike Marsh for mastering at The Exchange. This song, let's start with melody. You fell in love with this guitar riff the first time we heard it in Sammy's live stream on March 27th. And now we're finally to the day where you get to, as you say, wax lyrical about this. I can't wait to hear you just gush
You want to hear
about the
me
melody of
gush?
this song. Yes, because I know you love it so much.
I do. I love this. So, this is an F sharp. It is 66 beats per minute, which is heartbeat territory.
Mm.
This
Mm.
is 12 bar blues. This is the epitome of the start of everything. This is where guitar all started.
Mm.
And as it's actually in F, it falls into what they refer to as jazz blues.
Mm.
So it
I
has a
yeah.
slightly different tonality to it to the original Delta blues, which is what you would class as the original 12 bar blues. So anybody that learns guitar and has guitar lessons, generally speaking, one of the very first things you are taught is the 12 bar blues. It is locked into your head from the moment you
Mhm.
are born as a guitarist to the moment you sort of decide, like myself, that I'm not a guitarist. Um, I still have my guitar. She gets picked up every now and again. But yeah, I'm not a guitarist. I'm never even going to pretend to be. Bass player, yes. Guitarist, definitely no. Um, so this guitar is beautiful. And the reason this guitar is beautiful is it is simple. The tonality is unctuous and
Oh,
deep and
wait, what was the word you
beautiful.
used? Unctuous?
Unctuous. Unctuous.
Oh my god, I don't know that. That's a new word for me. What does
There
that
you
mean?
go. Rich,
Ooh,
deep,
okay.
full bodied.
Mm.
It is a truly beautiful piece of guitar work. Now, when I first heard it, I went to my happy place, I think is probably what I'm going to say. And I might have done a little squee at the time. A little
I think
squee.
you did.
I
You
think I went,
got super giddy. It
I
was like
did.
I think I said in that episode, I was creeped out.
Yeah, yeah. I've calmed down a little bit since then, but I do love it. And I think, to be perfectly honest, in London, and Tegan walked to the front of the stage and started playing it, I may have let out an audible.
I thought you were gonna say like a squeal.
I
I
didn't
wanna
know.
hear
I
you
don't squeal,
squeal.
darling. Darling, I don't squeal. I will never tell, but I don't squeal. But yeah, no, honestly, beautiful. And it's so well played. And it's also well produced. So hats off again to Leo because the sound that he has got out of this, I don't know how many times it's been tracked, but it is so omnipresent within the actual
Mm,
recording. It
mm.
sits front and center. It slaps you around the face and it says, "You're mine, bitch, come here," is the only way of describing it.
Oh
It
my
is
god.
stunning.
We are totally making a reel with that, that
Fair
line.
enough. Fair enough. But it's true. It is. It's true. It's honestly. It's and just the guitar, the way that Tay plays it throughout the entire track is beautiful. And as I said when I very first heard it, no disrespect to Sammy, but I did wonder whether or not it was him that had actually played it. Sammy has a very different style of playing guitar.
Mm,
Guitarists have a fingerprint, and you can very definitely hear it. And Sam's technique is very different to that. Don't get me wrong. I can listen to Sam play guitar all day long. I will freely admit that. And he has a very specific fingerprint when he's playing. So when I heard this, and I was just like, I, I, I don't think that's Sam playing. And it was when I heard the run. So you get the da 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 and then run up, and I was like,
mm.
that's not him. And then when we found out that it was Tay playing, I was like, okay, I can hear the bass player in this.
I can't highlight his skill as a guitarist enough. And I think, again, through this podcast and us really digging into the work, I have realized his skill level more. And
Yeah.
also, I think we learned that through the documentary film. I talked about that in our Into the Tribeca episode. There was that amazing scene with a set of producers during the time of Duel,
Mm.
and they were just gave him a melody and he mimicked it on the electric
Yeah.
guitar. His level of guitar playing skill is tremendous. And I mean, this song is such a highlight of that
Mm.
to me. It's incredible guitar playing. I This is what I appreciate with this song too, is we would like them to do things a little more unique. And
Yes.
that's this song to me. Like, this is a unique sounding song for them. Good on them, as you would say. I like that I picked up your little isms. Good on them that they push themselves to do something sonically different.
Yeah.
So Tay said in I think it was a Q and A that I was watching, that this song was not initially a blues song. And
No.
I just love that of how, you know, that Kelly, in your experience songwriting, songs can evolve and
Oh, so
change and
easily. Yeah.
move. And so I love that this wasn't blues, but for whatever reason moved in this direction. Hajun said that Taegyum came up with the melody.
Yeah.
So this was his melody that he brought to the group. And I think, again, in this album, if we think of it as the body of work, Kelly, like, we needed something a little bit sonically different because
Yes.
so much of these songs sound sonically the same. And
Yeah.
so this was a good inclusion because we needed something to break that up or it
Yeah.
would be too stagnant.
If this track wasn't there, it would sound very stodgy.
Yeah. Right.
Very, very
Yeah.
stodgy. Yeah.
This that and it begins with that electric guitar and it grabs you, doesn't it?
Oh my God, literally. It
Ah,
is Gary Moore. It is Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's all of those absolutely magnificent blues guitarists that have gone before. And it's played with passion. Honestly, you can hear the passion in the notes. I
Yes.
don't think you necessarily get that with a lot of their guitar playing, and I think this is the first time we've kinda heard it. I mean, you get it with virtuoso guitarists, that's why they're virtuoso guitarists. So, to hear
Yeah.
them have that sort of change of pattern in their songwriting ability
Yeah.
and the technique.
I'm in the London show we saw. Okay, sus content alert, here we go. When Taegeum played, he, like, leaned his head back, and he got into it, and he bit his lip, and that was sexy. That was sexy as shit.
There's a reason that the blues are the blues, is all I'm
I
saying.
mean, oh my god, Taegeum. Like, watch it now. Hold on.
Did you
Whew.
have to get your fan out for that bit?
I did, I had to clutch my pearls. I was clutching my pearls on that one.
I feel like I need to buy
Whew.
you a new set of pearls. I think we've already
I
destroyed the
know,
old
I'm gonna
set.
those pearls are they're all
They've
ripped.
gone, they've
Hold on.
gone, they've gone.
But he did, he bit his lip, and he had his head back, his eyes were closed. Oh my god, it was so fucking sexy.
The
Yeah.
thing the thing is with blues, blues is it is sex. That's
It
what it
is sex.
is.
Yes.
And it's just and it speaks to us more on a primal level and the beat and everything else because it fits with your natural heartbeat. The rhythm
Yeah.
is more in that tempo and that area and it pulls you in more to that. Um
You know what I
yeah.
like about the structure? I like that it's like the focus is that electric guitar blues riff. Then it pulls back and then it allows that the melody is sits back. So I'm gonna go with JJ Catalyst. I'm gonna go off of what I learned from JJ. Shout out to JJ. Like, I think from a mixing standpoint, then the vocals become the focus. And these
Mhm.
vocals are just as rich and sexy and then the guitar comes back as the focus. So there's kind of this back and forth to me in the
Yeah.
way it was structured that
It
again,
is.
I just love.
The guitar and the voice actually act as a duet if you listen to it properly.
Oh, right. Okay. That's a great way to yeah, you're right. I think that's
It
maybe what I
it
was
it
trying
is
to
yeah,
describe.
it is a duet
Yeah.
between the 2 of them, and they share similar notes and similar
Yeah.
frequencies, and that's why it works so well, and if you listen to some of the guitar runs and licks, they are very similar to Sammy's trills as well. So whether
Yeah.
Sammy has added the trills to replicate what the guitar is doing or whether Tay's replicated Sammy's trills. I'm not 100% sure when they've recorded it, but there is
Mhm.
that really lovely balance and it's a really gorgeous mix of how it's been done. But that's kind of how I see it. I see it as a conversation between Sam's voice and the guitar, almost as a
Yeah.
duet, to be honest.
I love that. I like in the chorus melody that I think the vocals are a little I'm gonna use the word picked, because the way they go, "Slowly, slowly,
Yeah.
slowly." I
But
like that technique.
think about the guitar. It's replicating what the
Yeah.
guitar does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a
I love
traditional
that.
which is in traditional sort of guitar playing, it's chicken picking,
Mm.
and it's a technique that gives you that staccato picked sound, and then obviously he's replicated that with his vocals. So yeah.
Okay, whew, let's move into the lyrics. Wow.
Without I've got completely away without actually waxing lyrical about Sam's vocals on this.
Let's go back to the vocals before we get into the lyrics.
Because I know that I have technically drooled over the guitar, but actually, in a way, you could almost say that with Sammy's vocals. The fact that he is sat in that beautiful timbre of a chest register that he's got,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
he allows it just to ring. You can actually hear the notes ringing in his chest, which is
Mm.
something beautiful because you don't get that once you get the vocal over your larynx into your cheeks, into your nasal cavity, and up into your head register. You lose that sort of depth. And that this then comes back to the fact it sounds like, what's the terminology I'm going to say? It sounds like pillow talk.
Mm.
It's got that warmth and lusciousness. And yes, I think it's actually some of his better vocal work. It's
Oh,
simpler,
yeah.
but it's some of his better vocal work.
Yeah, I just think this blues, this soul, we talked about that, I felt that way in his Happy Alone vocals. Like, he has a really natural lenience in his vocal style to that style of song. And I think it's so his voice comes off so honey rich and thick, and it's just, yeah, it's lovely.
You also get the natural rasp of his voice as well, which is naturally
Yeah.
missing. When he goes into higher registers, you lose that. And the thing about Sam's
Yeah.
voice is that rasp is the most beautiful part of. Right, I'm going to have to say it. Please do not take this the wrong way. I'm having no sus content whatsoever at all. The man has the most beautiful instrument I've ever heard.
That's gonna be a sound clip going out.
But he has. I mean, naturally, he has a truly
Oh,
beautiful. Voices are instruments at the end of the day, folks.
well,
And
yeah, and I
and it
think,
is the most beautiful natural instrument. He's not
yeah,
trained to sing. Dojon's trained to sing. Sam just has
yeah,
a naturally beautiful instrument.
he
And
does, and
I am gonna regret saying that. I know.
I know you're gonna regret saying that. Yeah, that's gonna come back to haunt you. To me, his vocals and him as a singer, because he's not trained. I think he has even admitted he's never sat down, other than his time as a trainee, with any of the vocal coaches that in his very early career. And I think he always kind of, this is some of his personality though, but in my opinion, but like, he's stubborn, and so he's raw. He's rough. He's not polished to me, but
Yeah.
I think that's some of what is the appeal of his voice.
Ye
Um
there's very different types of singing teacher. Now, in my life, I've had 3. My first singing teacher was at stage school, and it was very much about power and projection. It never really felt about anything other than that. My second singing teacher kind of wanted to polish the edges off of who I was, and I never really felt comfortable with that. And then I was very lucky to meet a lady called Ali, and Ali has a list of people on her books that I know about, but we don't talk about. And she has trained some of the best vocalists that are out there. And her honest sort of approach to vocal training is to teach you how to use your instrument best, not to alter your instrument, not to be anything else. It's literally how to use it. She never tried to train anything out of me. And I think the problem is Sam's probably had a bad experience with vocal coaches when he was doing K-pop Idol. If you get a bad one, you get a bad one, and you have to be persistent and find the right person. And I just don't think he's ever been lucky enough to do that. And probably his past experiences with these things have probably just then created this "fuck it, I know best" attitude that he kind of
Yeah.
has with it.
It would be interesting. I mean, I don't know if he'd ever have an interest in finding someone that was more like the vocal coach, that you have worked with, just to
Yeah,
kind of take his style maybe to the next level. All right, let's go into the lyrics. As I was kind of starting to say, these are, whew, if I thought Nebula was heavy, these are really heavy. I mean,
yeah.
to the point where even Sammy says in the station head, he even admitted this is a sad song. He didn't want to explain it, but all he said was it was exactly what he was feeling at the time.
Slowly
이거
is a sad one. Could be a
yeah.
sad one. Slowly는. So slowly I didn't really want to explain, to be honest, because I felt like it's
Felt like
exactly what I was
Mhm.
feeling. 어. 난 이거는 그냥 just what I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, the overall feel of this song is burnout.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is burnout, personified burnout.
Yeah, like, the line that to me conveys that burnout is, "Sick of the things I used to love."
Yeah.
Right? Like, the
And
things that
and
gave you joy
yeah,
are you're now just like, it's a chore,
and I
or you just don't even
think
wanna do it.
and I hate to say, the things I think he used to love was the music.
I think so too. If this is the story and the journey we're on, some of what came through in the Nevermind of that continued disengagement.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like this is him saying why he's disengaged.
Yes, it is, very
Right?
definitely.
I have been in a place with my career in the past where I don't do this podcast full time as a job, unfortunately. I actually have a real job. Um, and I used to be a classroom teacher of elementary school students, and it was my passion. It was what I always wanted to do ever since I was a little girl. And then I lost that passion and it became something I dreaded and something I hated. And it's an awful feeling.
Mm, it
It
is.
is because you just feel lost because
Mm.
this was something that you loved so much. And then for it to be something you now hate or dread, it's one of the worst feelings.
And you know what? That feeling of hate and dread and apprehension and anxiety and everything that
Yeah.
comes along with burnout isn't generally that actual thing that you then start to hate. It's the environment around it, and a lot of the times the
Oh,
people around it.
so true, Kelly. Yeah, that is so true because if I think of myself, I miss teaching.
Mm,
I miss the act of teaching because I was good at it and I
yeah,
loved it. But I don't miss the environment of schools. I don't
mm,
miss everything else that came with it.
yeah.
So that's
And
so true.
so when I first started out as a kid, I mean, I was 15 in my first band. I mean, we didn't really do anything, but it was a training ground.
Mm.
And I think I was about 18, and the band that I was in then started to do things, and we were playing gigs, and people were asking us back. And it started to build and build, and then it died off. The next band started to build and build and build, and then it died off. And this build just kept happening and happening. And then we got to a point with Surviving Savannah where we were doing like tours around the UK. We'd released an EP. We were going into a very decent studio to record the start of an album. We'd got people interested in us. We'd got a following. And then the realization that it was falling apart started to happen.
Mm.
And that was the point where I burnt out with music.
Mm.
I hated music. I didn't want to be anywhere
Mm.
near it. The thought of it literally hurt my heart. And it wasn't the music though. Music never did anything wrong to me. It was the environment and it was the people.
Yeah.
And it was that continual push pull. You were almost there and then you were pulled back down all the time.
Mm.
But I've then gone from sort of that was sort of 10 year ago. And then I've come full circle and I'm working again now. And it's the world is a different place. You aren't somebody that just writes a song, records a song and performs it. You are a personality, agony aunt. a content creator, a fashion accessory. You are this, you are that, you are the other. You have to wear so many hats. And if you're doing it yourself, you've then got the fact that you're the business, you've got everything else underneath it. And people just see this gleaming thing on stage, this finished product, and they don't know everything that goes underneath it.
Yeah.
And when you get to that and when you get to that point where you stop and you look back and you go, "Was that all worth it?"
Mm.
That is sometimes, especially if depression is creeping in and you're tired and you're ready for burnout, that is when it
Mm.
kicks in. And to me, this is what this song is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a time when he was in very throes of deep depression.
Yeah.
Um, eh, like we said, he goes into hermit mode. He
Yes.
pulls in. That's his yeah, like, that's his defense
Yeah.
mechanism, and I think the line that I think is poignant too, and he talked about this, in Station Head as well, but the line that says, "I'll never find somewhere I can call my home." And it's interesting, home is such a major theme in this entire album.
And then, in Slowly, I love that line that, because, I moved around a lot as a
Mhm.
child.
Uh-huh.
Like, literally, I moved around, like, so much, like, to different countries and different cities.
Oh.
Yeah, so I never felt like I had a home. But,
Mhm.
really doing the rows, and maybe that's why I'm the way I am growing like this. Like, I really
Mhm.
always was looking for that home.
Mhm.
And finally, like, after I started doing the rows, I
Mhm.
felt like I found my home. Like,
Yeah.
which is the rose, and which is like what we built together with black
Mhm.
roses. Like, I honestly, and I'm not saying
Mhm.
this as like a sugar coated just phrase and 그냥 뭐 이빨린 말이 아니라, like, this,
Mm.
even though wherever I am in the world, touring, traveling, like, or I'm in Korea, America,
Mhm.
wherever, I feel like I'm at home anywhere now,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I have the rose and we are the rose, and also we
Yeah.
have fans all over the world now.
Mhm.
So wherever we go, wherever we are,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm at home. For some
음.
reason, I feel very connected. 뭔가 연결이 된 것 같아. Through
맞아.
music. So I really found the comfort
Mhm.
in my mind and in my heart doing this. And so I feel at home every day.
If you think about Sam's story, though,
Yeah.
his home has literally been a suitcase since he was a kid. He's had
Yeah.
moments of respite and stop. He's never truly put roots down, and he is a person that needs roots. And I
Yeah,
hope
he's
that that comes to him at some point in his life, that he has the ability to put his feet on the ground and dig in and have that
yeah,
one place that's home.
yeah, I think he's kinda said in that Station Head that he is maybe struggled his whole life because he thought home was a place.
No,
And that's
home
what
are
he was always
people.
looking for. He was always
No,
looking for a physical place. And
no,
I think
home are people.
what he's come to understand in his life now is, to him, home is the rose. To
Yeah,
him, home is the music he creates with the rose, and thusly
yeah,
the community he now has with Black roses, which then also means that if that is home, if that is his comfort, if that is his solace, and he feels burnt out
yeah,
by the one thing that is his
exactly.
home, what does that do for his mental health? And I think that's why that burnout for him is so Probably worse than the burnout I felt from teaching because I could just,
Mm,
you know, I was able to pivot and find a new career path using my same skills. Like, if your burnout is the place you literally find solace and home and
yeah.
comfort, like that's so much more severe. I just feel like in what you're dealing with in terms of your mental health.
I mean, you've also got to think about this another way, and this does relate to one of the lines in the song as well. All Sam ever experiences when he's with the band. So he's got the core nucleus of the band, and just outside of the core nucleus, he's got the team that float around in the background and make everything happen. And they act as these connector rods to the outside world. However, this outside world moves at such a faster pace than what's happening at the core, at the nucleus of it. And this is where all of these meaningless encounters happen.
Mm,
And I'm not saying Black Roses that when you meet the guys, it is a meaningless encounter to them. But when you are seeing face after face after face all day long, it starts to lose its meaning.
mhm.
It really
Yeah,
does.
I think of a conversation I actually had the honor of having with him at the New York Wolfpack Feast because not long before that was when he had that really great live stream and promoting 4444. And he went on this tangent to talk about the parasocial relationship and
Yeah.
how he views Black Roses as a collective.
Yes.
And I I had a nice conversation, brief but nice, um, to point out to him that doing something like the dinner, where we spent, what, 3 to 4 hours, with him and got to have one-on-one more personal, true conversations. It wasn't, I see him for 2 seconds and we take a picture and heart and, moving on and the
Yeah.
next one
Yeah.
comes. He asked our names. We told personal stories about our backgrounds and things. And I said to him that the problem is that when you see everyone as a collective, you don't see our individuality.
Mm.
Like you don't ever make a real connection with us on a true individual level. Like we're just
Yeah.
this like blank, Black Roses are this energy and this like
Yeah.
faceless group, but we have
Yes.
stories. We have
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
Like like this opportunity to do that dinner was where for a short amount of time he could sit down and listen to someone's real story and make a true authentic connection and
Yes.
hear what his music has truly and the Roses music has done for people. And like when I told him that, I remember he was like, "You're right." And he was like, "That is why I did this
Yeah.
dinner."
Yeah.
Because he hates the fan service of the moving
Yes.
them through like an assembly line. He
And it
hates
is. I
that.
mean, it's like a Ford factory is the only way of describing it.
Yeah.
There's no, yeah, no, it's atrocious, and it's something I don't like. And I must admit, I find it so impersonal. Um,
Yeah.
and I've kind of looked, and I must admit, I hate to say, it, I've kind of looked at what they do and gone, what can I do if we get to that point as a band that we
Yeah.
can start to do these type of things? How would I do it differently? And trust me, I would do it very differently. There is, and I mean, I've said this to you. There are people out there who do very definitely have this sort of weird, sort of parasocial connection, and that can taint the
Yeah.
perception of the whole as well.
Yeah.
And that's horrid. I've had some encounters So, like, we're talking meaningless encounters here. But I mean, as a musician, I mean, thankfully, I've not had them with Spectral. Um, I'm damn sure I probably will at some point. But I mean, I've had situations where I have played gigs. I had one guy follow me into the bathroom,
Mm.
and thank God he was stopped by one of my band members. I've had guys think it's appropriate to touch me up
Mm.
while I've been talking to them about merch and when our next shows are. Now, the thing is, I am in a position as a woman where it's frowned upon. If a man touches a woman, it's frowned
Mm.
upon. And these guys are ejected and they're moved out of the way immediately. And that's me playing grassroots venues. And the problem is, I've seen this happen to male musicians as well. And it's almost classed as a different thing when it's a guy that goes through
Mm.
this. And it's atrocious. And it taints them as well. I mean, there's this kind of
Mm.
ideology that if a woman pays your attention, it's like, well, hey, you're in there, lad. Good on you. Whereas if you're a
Yeah.
woman, it's like, get your hands off the lady.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, for a music artist, just it's sometimes a fan can cross that line, right, of that unwanted attention or touching. Yeah. Yeah, I think kinda back to then the message in his song, I think what some of also what struck me is the lyric where he says, "Hoped to paint it black and white, but the gray parts keep throwing me off." Like, I
yeah.
think to me, I liked that line because I feel like what he's saying is you wish things were just clear cut sometimes,
Yes.
simple,
And
black
it's
and
not.
white. And the world is so complex, right?
Yeah.
And just again, how that kind of weighs on you. Like what he's saying too in this song is it's that stage of depression where, like you, if you're my friend, Kelly, and I'm going through this, I'm just like, don't even try to make me feel better, Kelly. Like, don't
Oh,
tell me
yeah.
it's gonna be okay. Don't
I
tell
want
me.
I want to wallow in my own self-existence and my own depression. I
Yeah.
want to be alone.
Yeah. Where I remember when I first heard the snippet of this song, I thought it was about death.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think it is. I think this is, generally speaking, it's metaphorical death of ego.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's not about what I thought at first. It's more just like just let me wallow in my misery. I just want to be left alone.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of Cartman slightly. I get that sort of screw you hippies, I'm getting him.
You mean South Park Cartman? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yes. If I was going to put a comedy edge on something that is a very serious song, it does kind of have that feeling of screw you hippies, I'm getting him.
Sammy, I feel like I could hear him saying that. I tell you, again, just the level of vulnerability he has
Yeah.
brought to this album. No wonder you and I've kind of said they're not promoting this album in a way. They're not going on something like the Zach Sang show and digging into the meaning of the songs, but I mean, maybe they're not because, like, how does he sit across from someone and explain this?
I mean, you are completely within your right to say, I do not want to explain what this is about,
I mean,
or
he
you
basically
do.
said that on Station Head, but it's
Yeah,
like,
you don't have to explain it, but you can give a overall view of it. And I must admit, people keep asking me what my songs are about. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not naming names. I'm not doing that. But I will give you an overview. I think you have to step away from the music before you can actually hear what that actually means. I think they've missed a fucking treat with this album. I really do. With the right promotion, the right backing, the right just been in the right place at the right time. Oh, this could have been a really monumental album for them.
I
And
know, and
they've
I
missed a
think
trick.
you're right.
They've missed
Like,
a trick.
they should have gone out and done a lot more interview promotion to dig
They
into the
don't do
themes of these
any.
songs.
I don't know who does the sort of PR stuff. And I mean, I know they probably do the PR like most artists do when you first come out, and it's like they disseminate it out to their usual suspects and they'll write a review on it and just say, this is what's coming out and this is what it sounds like. But you have to act on the back of that. You have to follow that up, and there's no follow through.
They've done a few good article interviews. Like, we have the Ear Milk article linked
Yeah.
in these episodes, but other than those few articles that have come out, you're right. Like, it's just there's been silence.
And the thing is, I don't know whether they expect to be invited to do these things. Sometimes, like we do, you have to fucking ask.
I mean,
Don't be frightened to get on your knees and ask.
I don't know if I'm reading between the lines, or I'm trying to remember if they've said this blatantly. I think it's intentional not to be out there
Right, right.
talking
Let me
about
put it
it.
this way. We're going to go with rumours. Fleetwood Mac, greatest album ever written. You are not telling me that that wasn't personal. There was a woman on stage that was writing a song about the bloke next to her and how much she hated him, and he had to play the guitar to it every night.
Yeah.
But yeah, became one of the greatest albums ever written.
I think of No Doubt and Don't Speak.
Exactly.
Like, that song.
Exactly. And that was literally all about the breakdown of a relationship in a band. I mean,
Yeah,
Gwen
I know.
Stefani was stood literally next to the guy all night
I
long,
know.
singing "Don't Speak."
I think this is an incredible body of work. It's timely in terms of the messages out that they can be spreading and what's happening in the world that people would resonate with. I don't know why they're not out there, trying to
This
promote it more.
this feels a little bit like a tome of a book has been written, and this is an appendices,
Mm,
and they're
yeah.
treating it's like we've got to stick this on the end, and then we can finish, and then we can start on the new book.
Yeah. I mean, I
Whereas
feel like
this could
yeah.
they could have this could have been bigger. It could have been pushed more.
Right, right.
And
Well, let's get back into the lyrics, because I think there's a couple more lines I just wanted to highlight. I think continuing with the theme of the meaningless encounters, where he says, faces come and faces go. At the end, I'm left on my own, drowning in thoughts of my home. I really liked that set of lyrics, because I think, to me, it's continuing what we said, these, whether it's fans that he meets constantly, like, or just industry people, right? He's
yeah,
always being pimped out there to
oh,
go with Armani or Alexander McQueen, like all this high fashion stuff that I got to think he hates, because the man wears the
yeah,
same clothes that he probably
yeah.
owned in high school. You know, like,
I think he
and
may have bought something new since, but I know what you're saying. Yeah,
he's always kind of out there, like, having to meet people in the industry. And in the end, it's really just him, right? In the end,
yeah,
he's alone. Like he said
yeah,
in Lonely, right? He's
yeah,
come to be more comfortable in acceptance of that he is
yeah,
alone in this world.
yes,
And then drowning in the thoughts of my home.
yeah.
What do you think that line means?
Have a theory on that, but I'm not going to say it.
If I think of the imagery he likes to use, water, rain, right? This drowning concept. And then what is home to him? Home is the rose. Home
Yeah,
is the music. So I feel like he's saying, at the end of it all, it's all meaningless. There's nobody really here but me, and I'm just burnt out by the thing that I love most, but I can't stop thinking about it.
yeah.
You know, like, as much as I wanna separate myself and go in my hermit mode and just fuck everything, you know, never mind, fuck it all. Like, I can't fuck it all because I care. This is the thing I love most in the world. That's what he's drowning in. Like,
Yeah.
he's hurt by it, he's burnt out by it, but he's not able to let it go. And then he ends with, "Let me slowly, slowly, slowly take my breath away from here to a better place I call my home." So, I like that he's telling us in the end, and it's gonna lead into our last song, "Ticket to the Sky," that there's a way out.
Yeah. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an oncoming train. Regardless of what Ticket to the Sky starts as, it isn't an oncoming train.
That there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that's what "Ticket to the Sky" is to me,
It
which is
is.
a
It is.
beautiful way to wrap this album up. So why don't we go into that final song, track 7, Kelly?
Right. So Ticket to the Sky, composed and arranged by The Rose. Vocals are by Sammy and Leo. Background vocals by The Rose. Piano, whistle, and sound design are all by Park
Whistle.
Bojan.
What is
Whistle.
dude, is this like
Um, I know. The guitar and the vocals both recorded and edited at Windfall Studio, and of course, Dojon again mixed it at Windfall Studios. Mastering again was done by Mike Marsh at The Exchange. This is in F sharp major. It's 124 beats a minute, so it's got a nice little bit of drive to it. There's so many things in this that I love, but actually, one of the things, and it's the most ridiculous thing that I love about this track, but when you listen to it recorded, it has such beautiful imperfections that most
Ooh, tell
people
me
will take
more.
for granted. They're not imperfections. It is the true sound of playing music, but they've been
Mm,
left in. And in this modern sort of world of production, everything is pure note and
mm.
perfection. And you know what? That's not what you need. And there's one of the things that I love in this, and you hear it very predominantly at the start, is you can hear the inclusion of the fretboard sound. You can
Mm.
actually hear fingers on strings as they move around the fretboard. And it gives it
Ooh.
this warmth and joy that I don't necessarily think that you get on the rest of the tracks.
Mm.
It sounds organic and it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of reflecting on your perspective there, and just again, kudos to your ear and your ability to hear those really intricate details that my ear can't hear. What a reflection on who The Rose is as a band.
Mm.
Because, like, I've been calling them lately a beautiful mess because that's kind of what they are to me. You know, they aren't perfect and they're fraught with flaws. But what I respect, and I know you respect too, is their
Who
bravery
said I
to show
respect anybody? What's that about?
is their bravery to show the flaws,
Yeah.
you know? So I love your perspective on that. And thank you for kind of sharing that about this song. It makes me love this song more. I think
Mm.
you and I both, do we both agree? I came to appreciate this song the more I heard it.
Do you know
I didn't
what?
first like this song to the level I like it now. Not that I didn't like it. I wouldn't say, I don't want it to come across like that, but like I love this song now, but I feel like I didn't appreciate it at first.
This is actually my favourite song off of the album.
Oh, it is now.
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
wow.
Don't get me wrong, I love pretty much most of the tracks on there. There there's some of the stuff that is expected to be the bigger tracks that I could probably forgo. Um, but obviously Nebula, Nevermind, Slowly, amazing tracks. But this, I don't know, holds a special place in my heart, and it's not much
Mm.
that's allowed in there, to be honest.
I love that. I love how it starts with that strumming guitar, and this background noise of, like, a train.
Yeah.
I thought that just adds, like, again, just his level of creativity and the different sounds he experimented with on this album is
This
incredible.
this then again goes back to the whole idea of sound design. It's like, "Oh, well, I've got a table there, so I'm just gonna put some nice table books and some roses in a vase." That's basically what he's doing
Yeah.
by adding the train sound in there.
I just love it. And some of the background vocals, I really like that kinda like, that, like, little staccato, like, just
Yeah.
all those little elements to me were well done and c created more layers because I feel like tell me, if I'm wrong, but I feel like mostly the instrumentation pretty much is a piano and an acoustic guitar.
Yes, it is. There isn't that much to this track at all, which is
Right.
why it's spoiler alert, this is why it starts the show.
Oh. Oh, but there's some other little creative percussion instruments. What's the do you know the name of that little percussion instrument? Sammy in a Q&A or in the
What?
sound check was trying to play it and couldn't figure out how to play it, and Hajun taught him.
You mean the one that Sammy actually thought was the I must improve my bust machine?
Why did he think you, like, pulled it like you were doing arm strengthening?
I don't know. I don't know, but I literally got I must improve my bust going through my head while he was doing it. I was like, just
I
stop it,
swear,
man.
but
What are you doing?
that whole video of what because Hajun I love Hajun. He you know what, Hajuni, you coulda come in earlier. You didn't need to let that man
No,
struggle that
no,
long.
just let him, just for comic timing, make an absolute prat of himself.
Like,
And then just go,
how long?
excuse me, pass me the vibra I will show you how to use it. Weirdly enough, it's in the name. Slap.
And he was watching him like, "How long should I let this
No,
go?"
I mean, it's just comic timing. That's why he left it for as long as he did.
Oh my god, he looked like an idiot struggling with this thing, and then when he realized all you had to do was slap it, and then he got so excited when he did it, like, a couple times in the rhythm of the song.
Reminded me of a certain extent of the beginning of 2001 when you've got the apes around the monolith.
I thought he looked like he was, like, in elementary school again, where the teacher's like, come here, little Woo-sung-ya, let me show you how to do it," and then he's like, "Yay, I did it, teacher, look at me." Ugh.
It was very funny and kind of cute. It made me laugh a lot. So that's all I'm saying.
Alright, I'm gonna share this, the whistle. So,
Yes.
you know what this made me think of? I remember on the Sung's solo album Moth from 2022, his song "Phase Me" had a whistle. And in an
Hmm.
interview, he was asked, "Why did you include the whistle? Like, what did it mean?" And he said in that interview that it was a way to convey a carefree tone because
Yeah.
someone only whistles when they're content. And I couldn't help but hark back to that and thinking,
Mm.
again, with this song, we've gone through this journey, right? This album is heavy. And now is the end. We're through it. And I feel like this is a way through the song to kind of show it's a positive end. Like there's
Yes.
light at that end of the tunnel. You know, we're back home, we're happy, we're ready to move forward. And then again, I like that it ends the way it ends with just the whistle and the train sound,
Yeah.
just kind of taking you off into the distance.
It's
I
sort of
I
like it's
yeah.
the ongoing journey, which I really quite like
Yeah.
about it musically. It's quite lovely.
So now let's wrap up with kind of the meaning of the lyrics. Um, Uzong shared, again, this is based on a dream. Like,
He's got to stop eating cheese before he goes to bed.
yeah, like, what's up with his dreams? Like,
I
wow.
don't know. I don't
Um,
know.
but I think, like, we were just like, just kind of iterating in the melody part of ending it with going through these internal and external struggles. Um, to me, I think this is message of this song is rebirth and hope.
Yes.
That's what I get out of it. Where I like the line, "Found myself chasing the rails that curved through the clouds." I feel like that's the journey this character's been on
Yeah, and I think
all
isn't
throughout this
that
album.
yeah, but doesn't that also go back to the sort of literal ideology of the dream that he had as well?
Right. I mean, literally there was like a train that he was trying to catch, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's also like figuratively the rail is like the journey he's been on throughout this whole album
Yes.
of
Yeah.
ups and downs and
Yeah.
questioning life and burnout and and now it's kind of this like rebirth to the
Yeah.
hope of the next phase of promise. I also like the lyric, "Your touch stronger than anything I had." I loved that line.
Yeah. It's lovely.
What does that mean kinda to you?
I think it's more about not a physical touch. I think that's about realizing that there are open, honest hearts out there
Mhm.
that allow that intimacy at a distance, to allow that, to realize that there is that heart out there and that touch is there even though it's not a physical touch. I think that's a really beautiful idea. And yeah.
Yeah, I kinda with you, like, I felt like it was the connection, that he has to the music,
Yeah.
that I think in his life, when he feels chaotic, that he's never really had a physical home to ground him. It's this connection to the music, the rose, those other 3 men in his life and what they mean to him. That is his grounding.
Yes.
That
Definitely.
that's what grounds him when he's feeling the chaos swirl around him. His continuation where he says, "Make a wish here with me right now. It's our little secret ride. Let the wind blow your dreams to mine as we step onto the line." And then he says a little later, "Let the wind blow my dreams to yours. This is what I wish for." I like this little section of the lyrics because it kind of taking then the next level of like this connection he has with the music and the rose and
Yeah.
thusly the fans through that music. I feel it's like this shared experience he's saying that we all have together. It's kind of ours. It's our little secret. It's our shared intimacy. What do you think of those lines?
They're beautiful. I really love those lines, and I think those lines are probably why I love this song as much as I do.
Mm, yeah.
There's something about those lines that hit me. I don't know why, but they're simple. It's not clever.
Mhm.
It's not it's not overblown. It's not wordplay. It's nothing like that. It's just a simple declaration, and yeah, I really like that.
I like the line, "A gentle flame in our heart, glowing in the dark. Below the stars we ignite. A fleeting whisper in air. I hear my name as I'm searching for the entrance to your world." When I heard that glowing in the dark, we ignite a gentle flame, you know what I thought of? I thought of the episode of Photosynthesis, episode 5, where they talk about losing their spark.
Yeah.
Again, this song is telling us here at the end of our journey that if he's been burnt out and they've been burnt, I think he's not the only one dealing with
No,
burnout,
they've
but
all
like
been burnt out. They've all
if
been
they've
burnt
all
out.
been burnt out and they've all been dealing through this journey, this is a spark being reunited again and moving on to that
Yeah.
next chapter, as Dojun has said, right? Dojun
Yeah.
has said this album for them is a transition
It's a
from one.
bookend.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely a bookend. And it goes back to that feeling of me saying earlier on, it's like an appendices.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it feels like, which might be why they haven't pushed it as much as they have, which is kind of
Yeah.
sad. But
Yeah.
I love that sort of I have my spark back because that's what that is.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love the imagery of all of those things as well.
And I think this song, from his lyric writing, is to what you're saying, is full of beautiful imagery.
Yeah, it really is.
So very different lyric writing to what we talked about with Nevermind.
Which is just blunt and to the point and could be a punk song.
He's back to using that flowery imagery that he likes to do
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
so
He's
much
he's
of his
very
writing.
he's very much back into sort of fantasy writer territory.
What a wonderful way, I feel like, to end this I mean, this album, Kelly, we said, is it's a simple album, but yet so complex. There's so much depth here. That listeners, I hope our journey on this album has helped you also see the intricacies and the depth in these songs, and hopefully kind of come away with a newfound respect and appreciation. Any final thoughts before we go into our Would You Rather segment on the World album?
As I've said before, I think it is one of the best bodies of work. It does have issues, as we've discussed, but there are some of the finest moments on this album. Sammy's lyric writing and prose is at its best on this. I think some of the harmonies that Hajun and Taegum have created are some of the better harmonies they've ever worked on. And I think that Dojun has created, fabricated, molded, and birthed into existence something that sounds exceptional. And for somebody that doesn't necessarily act as the producer, he's earned his merit on this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And if he doesn't have people knocking on the door to ask him to produce stuff, I will be amazed.
Yeah. I think my final thoughts as we go into the Would You Rather segment. This is their best body of work. Uzung's best lyric writing that he's done up to this point. Like I said in part 1, in almost every song, there are
Mm.
some magnificent, iconic lines that conjure imagery and emotion, and that you can relate to. His level of vulnerability in his lyric writing in these songs is so brave. Dojun's just experimentation with sound and his talents on designing the sounds, using unique sounds, mixing these is really commendable, and I think giving
Mhm.
me a newfound respect for him. And then also, again, I think a lot of the melodies seem to come from Hajun and Taegyum. I feel like I can kind of see how all four of them came together in their ways of just like contributing to this album and creating this really rich,
Yeah.
simple, deep body of work that I feel will go down as one of their best in their
Yeah,
discography for
definitely.
sure.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I think it will be one of those cult albums. They'll end up moving on to other things and then people will come back and find this and it'll be like, oh, why did I not know about this album to start with?
See that, especially if, this next album is what we think is the shelved album that's probably
Yeah.
going to be louder and more in your face than Duel was. It could maybe be something that rises them even higher, and then it will gain a whole lot of new fans that never even
Exactly.
knew about World. And I could see them coming back and exploring this later. Or people moving on to other albums of theirs and maybe, I don't want to say forgetting about World, but like rediscovering World again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, kudos to the Rose. I think I would love for you guys to do more promotion and talk more about these
Yeah.
songs. I hope our breakdown did them justice, from your opinions, the Rose, if you ever listen to this. All right, that wraps us up, Kelly, of the World album. Whew, boy, I tell you, as we've been saying all throughout, this album, it's simple on the outside, but it definitely is complex and deep. I think it really led to some good discussions. So hopefully our listeners tell us what you have thought of the World album, particularly as we've been going track by track through these episodes. We hope to hear from you. All right, Kelly, let's jump into our humor segment. So I've been doing a lot of these would you rather. So I thought I'd go back to a different format. Remember when we did the zombie apocalypse format? And
Okay. Oh, what you
yeah.
doing to me, woman? What are you doing to me?
Okay. So here's our scenario that each of us are
Okay.
in. We are staying the night in a haunted mansion. Remember you said that there in England there are lots of actually like
Yeah,
haunted
legit. Yeah,
haunted
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
houses. Okay. So each of us we have to stay in a haunted mansion and we have to explore it all night. Who are we taking with us from the Rose?
Jesus. Oh my God. Can I just go on my own?
No, it's more
Why
fun to
not?
take a partner with you.
No, it's not. I can attest to this because I've done a couple of like haunted sleepovers.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
As part did you do it? Did you do it as part of shit?
I didn't do it as part of shit. No, this was a legitimate organized event, thank God. And when you went,
So listeners, I don't remember which episode we had that in, but Kelly's bandmate, Luke, is part of a paranormal group that acronym is literally SHIT.
yeah,
Shit. Which is
yeah,
funny.
the Sheffield Historical Investigation Team.
Shout out to Luke, who's a member of Shit.
Oh God, they know
Does
how
this
to
kind of
embarrass
stuff
me, don't
scare
they?
you?
Eh?
Does this kind of stuff like freak you out?
Um, what do I say without incriminating myself?
Ooh.
Yes and no.
Mm. Okay,
Yes
what do you
and
mean?
yes and no. Well, I grew up in a house where my mum's quite interested in the paranormal.
Mm.
I've got relatives that are sort of a bit that way as well.
Mm.
So it was never anything weird to me. Yeah. So it interests me more than anything, but I think I get interested from a sort of scientific point of view. So I try and think about it logically. I'm
See,
I'm
I
all I'm
feel
all for I'm all for Stonewall recording and things like that.
yeah, like I feel like you're gonna go into this haunted mansion and explore and not be scared at all.
I'm a bit more. If we do Ghostbusters, I'm a bit more. God.
You going, "Yeah." So who are you taking with you? Who's gonna be your exploring
That
partner?
could be Ray. I'd be the idiot that would think of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Um, no, I mean, it interests me. It also freaks me out quite a bit as well. I've had experiences. So yeah. I don't know. Right, okay, come on. So let's start with the Mackinac, shall we? So, Tagum, do you think he'd manage it? Because somehow
Mm.
I don't know whether he would. I think you'd have like a Scooby Doo smoke outline where he'd run away somehow. I mean, literally, you do like
I
a just like a pipe
Yeah.
rattle and he'd be
Well,
gone.
I mean, we did see him freak out and run away in the bug incident
Exactly.
in Photosynthesis episode 1, so his threshold of,
It's low.
you
It's
know,
low.
it's
It's low. Right, okay. So then we've got Hajun. I think he would probably take the piss all night. I think he'd actually be one of the people walking around making sounds trying to make other people freak out.
Yeah, like, Hajun doesn't seem scared of anything. Well, yeah, like, he's
Apart
so
from Sammy,
chill. It's
obviously,
so
when questions are asked of, you know, yeah, exactly. Then he's scared.
Hajun doesn't wanna be alone with Sammy anymore, apparently.
Exactly. Would you blame it?
Do we think after Sammy said that, Hajun decided to change his bunk location on the tour
Yeah.
bus? Like,
I'm going on the other bus. It's
"Stop
safer.
looking at me that way, Uga. You're you're
Suddenly
looking."
laid in bed, he's like, there's somebody cuddling me, get off.
There's somebody who wants to be my little spoon because we know Sammy likes to be the little spoon.
Oh dear, that's
I know, I
terrible.
feel like, yeah, Hajun would just be like, "Okay, Ghost, give me all you got."
Yeah,
Like,
come
you know,
on, try it if you're hard enough. Yeah, I think he would be, to be honest. I also think he'd be probably kind of fascinated by it.
Mhm.
Dojun. Mm. Right, okay. Leo. Why have I got a feeling he's probably worse than Tay?
See, I'm going different because we learned in some recent content he's the most cool under pressure.
Yeah, but there's under pressure, and then there's when he freaks out being silly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I feel like he would, like, if everybody else is freaking out, I feel like then he's going to be the calm one.
Okay, but there is that possibility, I suppose. Okay. And then we've got Samwise. Right, okay. I think he'd be into it.
I feel like he kind of, yeah.
I think he'd be
Well,
interested and into it.
I yeah, but I think I'm thinking of some past content where he's talked about, like, he told this great story one time in a live of his
Oh,
cousin
the one that his cousin had told him.
that has the sleep paralysis and
Yes.
talked about, like, the ghost.
Yeah.
So I think I think he'd kinda be into it, but then I think it would, like, freak him out.
Yeah. I think so
Yeah,
too. Okay,
yeah.
right. So I'm
So
gonna do I've got to do clarifying questions because this is me.
of course. I
Right.
expect no less.
So we're exploring a haunted mansion overnight. Is it lock-in?
Oh, yes. We
Right,
can't get
okay,
out.
so it's a traditional lock-in. Lights on or lights off?
Lights off.
Right, okay.
But we can have,
Uh,
flashlights
okay.
so we can
And
see where we're going.
okay. And is it literally just stay there or are they provoking?
What does that mean?
So you'll find that a lot of people will just go to experience the ambience of an area that is supposedly haunted. And then you get batshit crazy people that go and start doing things like Ouija boards and calling out.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, we're not doing the Ouija boards. We're
Thank God
just
for
gonna
that. No, that's fine. That's
but
absolutely fine.
this mansion is known for a lot of just natural activity happening. So we
Okay.
feel the likelihood we could run into an experience is gonna be high.
Right, okay. Right, so I'm going to ask you, who are you going to go with?
You said before we recorded, you think you know who I'm going to pick.
Well, I think it's who you're always going to pick.
So I think it isn't who you think I would normally pick. And so I felt like maybe we should, on the count of 3, say the
Okay.
name and see if
Okay.
it's the same.
Okay, go on then.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Sammy.
Dojun.
Wow, I'm surprised
Ah!
by that.
I know. I knew you would be. I would
I'm
totally
surprised
pick
by that.
Dojun on this. I think it's because what I said, like, when I kind of learned in that content that he's like super cool under pressure, I was like, this is what I need in this situation. I need somebody that is going to keep me calm.
Oh god,
And
you would freak her.
I would freak out in this situation.
Right,
I would
okay.
freak out. So I feel like he's going to be my grounding, like just knowing that he's got everything under control and it's okay and like he's going to stay calm while I can like freak out. I feel like that's what I need. Cuz if I get Tay and he's freaking out and I'm freaking out, that's not good.
Yeah, it's probably not a good
If I
idea if
get
you both sat there with paper bags breathing into it.
I know, right. If I get even like Sammy who's like kind of freaked out, like I feel like he'll be freaked out too a little bit cuz then it will like scare him. Like that's only going to make me worse.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
maybe Hajun, he would be my backup, knowing that he probably would just be like,
Yeah,
you know,
whatever, chill, yeah.
yeah. But I feel like Dojun's gonna be he'll be my number one.
Yeah.
So who are you
Okay.
picking?
Who am I picking? I've got a toss-up, to be perfectly honest. Mine's between two, so I can't give you an actual straight answer on this one.
Mm.
So, I would say Hajun literally for shits and giggles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I am one of those buggers that if somebody is being an annoying arse, I would probably start doing stuff to freak them out. Oh, I'm not that bad. I'm a lovely girl,
Oh my
honestly.
God, you're right. Like Hajun probably be that one over there making something rattle.
He would, yeah. He would. He'd be
Oh
the
my God,
one
this is
just
more reason why I'm not taking him. No, no, no.
yeah.
I'm not taking him. No,
I think
no,
so. No,
no.
but that would be funny, and I'd completely get that.
You would find that funny. I would freak out.
It's
Ugh.
funny until something actually happens, and then you shit yourself.
And then it would be like, you'd be like, Hajun, I know you're doing that. And he's going, no, I'm
It's not
Tay.
me.
I'm
It's not
Tay.
me. It's not me. It's not me. However, as I said, it does kind of interest me, and it sort of piques my sort of like nerdy science bit, and I want to know and I want to understand because I am one of those. I'm inquiring mind, need to know. I'm one of those
Yeah.
people. And I think for that one, so on the flip side of it, I think Sammy would be very similar with that one. Inquiring mind, need to know as well. So for me, it would be either one of those two. So whether I want to annoy people or whether I actually want to learn something.
All right. So you're going Hajun and or Sammy. Maybe we'll have both of
Yes,
them there.
exactly. Because I can't give a straight answer, I think, to that one because it'd be either or.
See, for me, you remember back in the zombie apocalypse, I can just have Dojun there
Why
calmingly
did I
saying,
not remember that? I forgot he's your comfort
"Telling
zone.
stars, I close my eyes."
That's
I
fine.
need him wearing
That
I also
that
need
is
him
fine.
wearing the cap.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
that's actually fine until you both start singing, and then a sort of little waspish voice comes in from the background, and it's supposed to an orphan child singing in the background, and you both shit yourself and run away.
Oh, all right, listeners. Tell us who you are going to bring. You're exploring a haunted house. Which member of the Rose are you going to bring with you? We can't wait to hear your answers. Join us next time. We're going to deep dive into the Roses song Black Rose and share stories from Black Roses of how the Roses music has impacted their lives. I know those are going to be really moving, and I'm really looking forward to that episode. Please rate our podcast. Leave us comments about this episode. We love to hear your feedback. Follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. We are at KROK_cast all across the board.
Click here to subscribe.
Email us at krock.cast@gmail.com and check out our website, www.krockcast.com. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.